Hello, boys and girls of YouTube. Well, you're probably wondering why you're staring at a three bank drop target mechanism for a pinball machine. Well, if you stay tuned, I'm going to tell you. This is why you're staring at this. To make a long story short, which I usually never do, and let me apologize up front about that. As you know, or maybe not, don't know, I'm trying to build a homebrew pinball machine. And the current configuration of the playfield uh, requires a 5 bank drop target, a 3 bank drop target, which this is that one, and possibly a 4 bank. I haven't gotten the 4 bank yet, but I got the 5 bank, and obviously I have the 3 bank. The 5 bank was a replacement for a Maverick pinball machine. It's a little bit older of a machine. It was based on a movie called Maverick. Long story short, that's what I purchased. But when I purchased that one, it was a complete setup, and the switches to indicate that the drop target was down were leaf switches. So it's like, okay, I can connect that to a fast pinball controller. Uh, exactly an ILO board they call it. And I'll get more into that a little bit later. So that wasn't a problem. So when I went shopping for the 3 bank, um, I ran across this one from a couple different suppliers. This one was from a company called Fast Pinball. I've gotten a few things from them. They're very reasonably priced. Products seem to be good. I've actually been to their warehouse to pick up a few products. They're up in Chicago, and I got this one. This particular one was a replacement for a Williams or Bally machine drop target. So, as I mentioned, the other one was leaf switches. So I kind of did assume that since Bally's Williams products were a little bit older, I did make an assumption that this was going to be leaf switches as well. Well, when I got it, the first thing I noticed when I opened it up is like, huh, it's not leaf switches. It's a little bit more modern. It's a drop target with a Opto board sensor in it. So, not that I wasn't familiar with those, I just wasn't expecting it, and I didn't think about how to wire those in. So I had to sit down and take a look and see what it needed to do to wire it to, like I said, one of those fast IO boards. So immediately went on to Fast website, and they kind of talk about it, and they do have an example of a Stern optic setup, which is very similar to this. The only thing that is different is just the naming of the pins, which threw me a little bit because it didn't have the exact same labeling. So I wasn't 100% sure how to connect it. So I was doing a little more research. I'm thinking to myself, well, somebody's got to have at least put this out in the web, in the world somewhere. So I kept looking, and didn't find anything. And it's like, huh, it's very odd. So I guess I'm going to have to figure this out. And then once I thought about, well, if somebody, if I'm looking for it, maybe somebody else is. So that's kind of why I'm doing this video. So let me pause there. I'm going to pull up a diagram, and I'll show you how to wire this thing using a fast pinball IO board. So bear with me a second. All right. So what you're looking at now is a diagram of the fast Opto board. This particular one is an 0804. What that basically means is that it has 8 switch inputs and 4 drivers for like solenoids or things like that you want to trigger off. So it's like a sensor and then a signal for trigger something. So they make 2 other boards. One's a 1616. That's 16 inputs and basically 16 outputs. and then a 3208, which is 32 inputs and 8 outputs. And then on the left-hand side, the top left, you're looking at an image of the optic board. It's off the mechanism, the mechanical mechanism. And then below that, you have the schematic of that board. I don't think this schematic goes with the image of the real board, but it does what we need because it has the right labeling of the pins. They're not in the exact same order, but it's definitely what you need for a Williams/Bally replacement drop target when it's using optic board. So if you look, I've got the diagram of the fast and the diagram of the Opto board kind of connected by the fictitious wires that in the colors that fast would like you to use. So if you kind of look in the middle at the lower bottom, you'll see a purple wire, or what represents a purple wire. So that particular one, when trying to wire up this board from a fast product, it'll have a section labeled G for the inputs, and that you want to take and run it to the one that says COL. In this particular example, it's the third from the bottom on the board to the left. Well, the schematic to the left, I should say. Now, what threw me when I looked at Fast's instructions on how to wire optic boards, they, like I said, they use the Stern, but Stern has something called a STB instead of a COL. So that's what kind of threw me when I was reading the instructions. So I just wanted to make sure I was 100% right and I knew how to wire this. Now, on Stern's setup, they actually use 5 volts, and if you notice, this one is 12 volts. And Fast kind of even mentions that most of their stuff is 12 volts, and you have to figure out how to run the 5 volts to that. But anyway, so that wire is the purple wire, and then the orange wires are going to be the inputs in. So if you look a little more towards the middle, you'll see three wires, and then if you look on the left where those wires end, you'll see row 1, row 2, and row 3. Those represents your drop target sensor. So when the drop target is hit down for 1, since it's an optic board, it's actually going to turn the light off, and that's when you have to make sure that your code for that is not set up for a switch that's on, which is easy to do. If you use Mission Pinball framework for your basics for your code, it'll tell you how to do that. I can go into that when I do it, which is many videos from now, but I will when I go into that in case you need to know. So that particular wire, let's use row 1. It'll go to that same input that you have the G on. I think Fast says now you might not need to do that, but I'm still going to do that when I wire mine, so this way it's easier if I have to disconnect anything. I have to go trace a wire and disconnect it from a different board, IO board from Fast, because I'll be using actually 3 different ones, because I'll have a lot of switches and I'll have a lot of outs that I'll need. So I had to use a few different boards of theirs in different locations. But anyway, when you go to the Fast board, that section, like I said, it has 8 inputs, but it actually starts with 0. So to make my life easy, and for this diagram, I just put row 1 to 0 pin on the Fast board. And then row 2 on the optic board just went to 1 on the Fast board. And then row 3 went to 2. Now, you could have actually wired it, 1 on the optic board and then 1 on the Fast board, but you'll have to remember that you have that pin 0 still floating around. And remember to use it, because otherwise you're kind of wasting if you needed that many switches to be registering. So for right now in this diagram, I made it easy. So, but it really doesn't matter what pin you put it on. Just when you code, you have to remember what pin you put it on. So this way you can tell the machine that, hey, this sensor for this drop target is 1, so register points or do something or whatever you're going to do. You just have to remember. This way you can tell the system what that is and what you need it to do. Because if you have it on the wrong one, it's obviously when you hit it and it triggers, it's not going to do what you want it to do. But again, you don't have to put it on the numerically matching switch. You just have to make sure you know what one you put it on. So that's kind of how you wire this. It's very easy, but when I did take a look at it, I wasn't expecting it, so I was a little, not going to say confused. I just wasn't 100% sure how I needed to wire this thing, and this is how you do it. So if anyone ever needs to find this, hopefully they can find it pretty fast. I'll try to put enough description in it so when you do a search, hopefully, whatever search engine you use will find this and it'll, help you. Again, I've talked a lot and really didn't show you a lot of the wiring, but you can freeze on this, and the diagram is definitely, a way to do it. And then if you want to, listen to me rattle on about not having the matching pins or whatever the case might be, that's fine. So at the end of the day, that's how you do it, and you're good.